You've seen our video on what to do in Los Angeles, you've booked your flights and your hotels, but how do you actually get around when you land in LA? Let's get this final part of your plan sorted so you'll feel confident about your trip and you won't sit in 1 minute of LA traffic. Disclaimer, it's not possible to completely avoid LA traffic, but we're allowed big ambitions. Plus, our tips will help you bring that number down. And stay watching to the end when I'll give you a tip on how to get around parts of the city for free. Before we get started, if you hadn't noticed, I've got a bit of a cold, so I actually look, sound and feel like I've been on a plane for 12 hours. So it's actually quite an authentic video. Right, let's get into it. First up, in LA, the car is still king. I made a video about San Francisco and said actually there you don't need to hire a car at all, but that's not the case in Los Angeles at the moment. This city was built around the automobile when it boomed in the 1920s. Strip malls, drive-thrus and supermarkets were all invented here to make life easier for drivers. Now we have them all around the world. You can get anywhere at any time, quickly and safely in a car here. I say quickly, but you can get stuck in LA traffic at any time of the day. There are just so many people on the roads, so many cars, accidents are bound to happen. So actually a freeway can get stuck at any point, you can't avoid it. But you can try to avoid rush hour, which actually feels like you're stuck in an accident. Now rush hour in LA starts a lot earlier than you might think, actually between 6:30 and 7:30, and it probably lasts until about 9:30 in the morning. In those points, any freeway is going to be quite snarled up and it will add lots of time to your journey. I need to go in a bit more detail for the Brits here. Now guys, you think that rush hour is just a little bit of extra time, maybe 10 minutes to a journey, that kind of thing for an hour. This is another level of traffic you've not experienced before. So actually a trip that would normally take you 5 minutes will take you 40 minutes. It really isn't worth the risk. Avoid the rush hour traffic. It's quite nice for us as a family because we actually would drive from San Diego to Disneyland and we'd actually purposely not even try to leave the house until about 9:30 in the morning. And that meant that we'd actually get a nice quick drive up there. And do you know what? Arriving at 10:30 or 11 o'clock to Disneyland isn't the worst thing because then you can stay until the evening and you miss the evening rush hour. Now the evening rush hour actually starts really early again. 3:30 I'd say it starts. So that's really early for us Brits who think rush hour is just between 5 and 6. So avoid driving around LA from 3:30 till about 7 o'clock at night. And it's not just when we're staying in LA we try to avoid rush hour in the city. When we're actually doing a big road trip, we'll make sure that we're not hitting LA at any of those either morning or evening rush hour points, because otherwise you're just going to waste loads of time in traffic. So that's another thing to think about when you're actually planning your trip, either from San Francisco or Santa Barbara or wherever you're coming from. Plan the trip so you avoid the LA traffic at all costs. Right, let's find some questions from you guys. This is from a Crispy Bacon, see what you've done there, very funny. He says, I only need to get from the airport to my hotel and maybe a few sites. Do I need a car? No, probably not. You can get Ubers from anywhere in the city, they'll take you anywhere. They can be pricey, you can check out how much it will cost in the UK and go onto the Uber app and it'll tell you how much you might expect to be paying for these trips. Also, you might find that if you're in LA, you might have a free shuttle to Universal Studios, or if you're in Anaheim, there's probably a free shuttle to Disneyland as well. So look for those kind of things. One of the hardest parts though is actually trying to get out of LAX. So when you're actually landing at the airport, okay? Getting out of LAX is actually probably a video in itself. It's actually really tough. You see, public transport from the airport isn't amazing at all, but neither is actually trying to rent a car from there or getting an Uber. You have to do extra things just to get to those two places too. You see, when you come out of the airport, you'll see that cars are like 3 cars deep trying to pick people up. You actually can't get an Uber without getting a shuttle bus. You can't get your rental car without getting a shuttle bus, and it's all quite chaotic. Now, if you're happy to spend quite a bit more money, you can leave the chaos behind and then they will take you straight from the airport pickup area to your hotel. That's there, but it is a premium product and you are going to pay quite a bit more for it. But for some people, it might be worth that just to get out of the chaos and into your hotel nice and quickly. Dave, I hear you cry, how about a bus or a train straight into the city? There must be one. Well, I've got good news and bad news for you. Bad news, there's no direct train at all. Good news, there is a bus. The flyaway buses can be picked up from every terminal and go straight to Union Station in downtown LA, and they only cost $10 per person. 2 children under 5 are free with each adult. You can book ahead or use contactless on the bus as you get on. It takes about 45 minutes and it drops you off at Union Station. You have got that option if you're going to downtown, but what if you're going to Disneyland and staying in Anaheim? Well, unfortunately, it's not great news again. You're gonna have to get the same bus to Union Station and then get the Metrolink down to Anaheim, which is another 45 minutes to your journey. So realistically, if you're not gonna rent a car from LAX, the best choice is probably to get a taxi or an Uber to Anaheim at that point. I know what you're thinking, none of these options actually sound that great. Is there not a real transport network in LA? Yeah, it's not been great, has it? Well, the good news is, just in time for the World Cup in 2026 and/or LA 2028 Olympics, there should be a proper extension and proper metro network for all, so we can travel around LA like a normal city. There's going to be a new airport train to take people to car rentals and the metro line. The metro is being upgraded and extended. The downside is that most of it still won't be ready until 2026, and it isn't being extended to Anaheim for all you Disney lovers. So maybe we're never going to get the perfect LA transport system. Right, let's move away from the airport now, shall we, and look at how we get around the city normally. Well, first up, there are loads of buses. You can use Google Maps to navigate around the whole city. They're not the safest, but they are very cheap. There are also hop-on, hop-off bus tours, which are very safe, and you get to hear some great facts about the city and get your bearings. This is a great option if you're using the Go City card, as it brings the price right down when you use it with the other offers. I'll leave a link below. Just be aware that the last buses are quite early. They're around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you might get stuck in LA traffic at times on these, so plan ahead. LA does have a metro, which is like the subway in New York and the underground in London. But as you've heard, it's not the best at the moment. It doesn't go everywhere. And in fact, it doesn't really go to every site. So you could be sometimes getting off and walking for 20 to 40 minutes or having to get an Uber after you get off the subway. So it doesn't really work in the best kind of way. Some sites it doesn't even go to. So you sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't. And the other downside is that at night is not the safest as well. So again, not the best option for getting around. But in the daytime, if you're just getting from one area to the other and you know that it's close to the subway, then use it in the daytime. It's a really good option for you, really cheap. For example, you could get the metro to and from Universal Studios, and on that line, you'll be able to stop at Hollywood and Vine for the Walk of Fame, and then go and eat at Grand Central Market and do old school downtown, like the Angels Flight, by getting off at Civic Centre. The downside is that there's always a bit of a walk from the stations. You don't just pop out at a site like in other cities. The metro is also a really good option if you want to go to Santa Monica for the day. It only takes 45 minutes, but you probably need to get an Uber, or you'll probably have to get a taxi to the station to get on that right train to get to Santa Monica. Also, you might want to think about what time you're leaving Santa Monica so that you don't come back through LA when it's a bit dodgier as well. So plan your journey, but that's a really good option as well. Hopefully some of these links will be fixed with the new improvements to the network. One of the other options for getting around that I haven't gone into too much detail about is Uber and Lyft. Now, we don't have Lyft in the UK, it's spelled L-Y-F-T, but you can download it and see how much things are going to cost beforehand. The funny thing is, a lot of drivers will have an Uber and a Lyft sticker on their car, so they're working for both anyway. But Lyft is a little bit cheaper at times, and it's actually what a lot of Americans use a lot now anyway. It might actually end up being cheaper than renting a car and paying for parking at places. For example, Universal Studios is $35 for the day and Disney is $25. As you can see, the cost of actually getting around and even parking in California can be really expensive. So let me give you a free way of getting around parts of the cities. For this, I'm going to have to hop over to Santa Monica quickly. Now, don't be surprised if my haircut changes or I change my clothes. I've just got to go off and do a few things. Right, stay there. Right, here's an insider tip for you in Santa Monica where you can travel anywhere for free using an app called Circuit. So we can literally just have a look where we want to go from, and we're going to go back to where we parked the car. Done. Let's see if it happens. You'll find these little transit systems in a few places, not just Santa Monica. I spotted one in Anaheim, Marina del Rey, Venice Beach, and there's a couple in San Diego. They've all got different names and apps just to make it more fun for you, but they do exist. Watch out for them. I've now told you how to get around LA. Where should you go? check out this video if you haven't already. I've also made one for Anaheim over here. Plus, we have hours of California content, which will give you loads of tips, hopefully, and make you feel more confident about your trip over here. See you in that one.